I'm aware I'm wearing the same exact outfit 2 days in a row on this channel, 2 videos in a row. Please just bear with me, I only had 1 day to record. In the last video, I'll link it somewhere, up, down, left, right, I don't know. But in the last video, we talked about the 5 biggest risers in ADP. And now today, we're going to talk about the 5 biggest downfalls in ADP. We're preying on people's downfalls today, baby. Roll the intro. Coming up first on the list in terms of ADP fallers, again, similar to how we did the last video, we're going to save the biggest faller for last. And we're going to start at the 5th lowest faller, or 5th worst. I don't know how to explain that. But it's Kyren Williams of the LA Rams at RB8, and I'll explain this in just a moment. Kyren's ADP pretty much went from as early as the back of the 2nd round to now floating somewhere in your 3rd round. Still probably early 3rd round, but that decrease is just not enough for me to say I'm all in. In a previous video I made, I talked about how I believe Blake Corum could evidently run away with the job, and it wasn't because of the very early injury news that was for Kyren Williams in training camp. I said that this would not be done because the Rams have not had a leading rusher in back-to-back seasons be the same guy since 2017 Todd Gurley. So there's been a very long time in between. It's not to say that Kyren Williams can't be a franchise running back because he was absolutely incredible last season. But it's more so I'm banking on the history and what Sean McVay has shown us in his coaching tenure that he's going to look for the next man up. And it doesn't matter how good you were the season prior for him. He might even split both of them at a 50-50 rate. So I'm not going to be drafting Kyren Williams as a bell cow running back for those reasons that Sean McVay has laid out this game plan for us. And the game plan shows that it might not be all Kyren Williams every single week. Now, I could very well be wrong in my analysis that Kyren Williams won't be the main feature back or the 3-down back for the entirety of the season. And it could happen, but given that there have been weird freak injuries that the Rams running backs have suffered, my statistics could be a fluke. But I'm going to bet on the fact that, being that he was already injured in training camp, something could happen again, unfortunate. I'm not wishing for that. But just not in love with taking him 3 or 4 spots later and still, as advertised to be a 3-down running back. Coming up next is Saquon Barkley, who comes in at the RB6 and has gone from a solidified early 2nd round pick to floating somewhere in the middle of your round 2. Or even if you play in a 10-man league, he might fall back to you on the back end of the 2nd round, which is crazy. Even though his injury past would suggest not taking him and the opportunity for goal line touchdowns to be vultured away by Jalen Hurts, I still think this is a really good value because Saquon Barkley could easily be used as the new DeAndre Swift role, given that he's probably just as good of a receiving back as DeAndre Swift, if not better. With Saquon's ability to just be a pure runner and a receiving back, it's going to be hard for somebody else in the Eagles' backfield to just get enough volume or snaps even to just compete with that workhorse running back, whereas the Rams drafted Blake Corum. That is somebody they probably plan on using this season. The Eagles did not invest a 3rd, 4th round pick in a running back that's as good as Blake Corum. So why would I believe that Saquon Barkley is going to lose carries to anyone? Again, injuries have been a big part of Saquon Barkley's resume. Any running back you take, Christian McCaffrey, Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, and we'll go all the way down the list, Josh Jacobs or Isaiah Pacheco or James Cook, all these guys could get injured too. So don't let that be the reason that you don't draft a stud running back. Because when people tell you take Christian McCaffrey at 101, you listen. Again, I'm not somebody who believes that should be how it's done. But if you're willing to take Christian McCaffrey and you're not worried about injuries, same should apply for Saquon Barkley. Don't be worried about the injuries. Use that same logic. Keep that same energy when we talk about my boy Saquon. Coming in at third on the biggest ADP change, just slightly ahead of Saquon Barkley's 3.8 drop in ADP. His teammate and quarterback, Jalen Hurts, who's the QB2, and has been dropped 4 spots in ADP since June 1st. Jalen Hurts is slipping, and at his QB2 price point, I still really think that that's a good value. Like, we're talking about somebody that was going at the back of the third, probably early fourth, to now even as soon as like middle of the fourth round. That's a good value, especially for a quarterback that's going to get the amount of rushing touchdowns that he is. As great of an offensive lineman as Jason Kelce is, I'm not really so bought into the fact that because he's retired, they're just not going to be nearly as impactful or giving him the 1-yard carries that he was getting a season ago. If they're on the one and they need a touchdown, it's going to Jalen Hurts. This is also going to be a big proving season for Jalen Hurts because now he's 2 seasons removed from his incredible Super Bowl run that he had with offensive coordinator Shane Steichen, who I personally think is a current offensive mastermind in the NFL and was so successful in making the Eagles that dominant force that they were 2 years ago. Now this is Jalen Hurts' opportunity to say, last season was just bad mojo, and he could still show that he has all of those abilities as a pocket passer that he did 2 seasons ago. So with people sleeping on him and the fact that Jalen Hurts got a bet on himself to show that he's going to be great again, I like this opportunity to take him a few spots later. I'm generally not an early quarterback guy, but if Josh Allen's off the board and you wanted a quarterback and he's just sitting there for you middle of the fourth, I think you got to take it. I think you got to go for it. Coming up next, we have Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers, who's currently RB11, RB12, and has seen as much of a 5 ADP drop-off. So, yeah, that's kind of a big deal. We were seeing him go at the back end of the fourth to now front of the fifth, maybe even the middle of the fifth. For somebody at his position and that positional need that's going to be flying off the board, like RBs are going to fly once you hit like round 3, and those teams that doubled up on wide receivers need somebody else, or somebody who went hero RB wants to stack it out and get 2 of those guys. That position's still flying off the board. So with that being said, Josh Jacobs, it's not that he's becoming a value. It's just guys are taking wide receivers a little sooner. So I don't think it's a value to get him 5 spots later in ADP. I just think maybe he was taken just a little too early, but now he's like properly rated. If in a vacuum I still had a choice between like Josh Jacobs and James Cook, I'd probably lean just a little bit more towards Josh Jacobs, just because I know that there's always a need for him, whether it's passing or rushing downs, whereas James Cook really becomes amazing when they use him in passing situations versus his rushing situations where he's got that fumbling problem. And, if you had him last year, you know about it. And if you didn't, it'll be a surprise to you when you draft him this year. But this ADP change doesn't make me go, I got to get my shares of Josh Jacobs. But if you built your team to where you need that first running back because you took 2 wide receivers, or you really want to get that second running back and just hold off on the draft and keep dart throwing these middle round wide receivers, then I would advise going Jacobs. But I don't think that he's become a value because of his ADP currently, or his ADP change makes him a value. Coming in at number 1, the biggest ADP change, going more than a half round later than originally was drafted, is the number 1 tight end, Sam LaPorta of the Detroit Lions. Now, Sam LaPorta was going as early as like the middle of the third to beginning of the third round, has now fallen to the back of the third round, or even if you play in like a 10-man league, it's like the middle of the fourth to even back end of the fourth. I still don't think this makes Sam LaPorta a value, but if in your fantasy leagues, guys like a Travis Kelce or a Trey McBride kind of jump the gun and you have an opportunity to get him at not tight end 1, I think that would be a good value for Sam LaPorta. But I think it's ill-advised to just run up to your draft boards at the beginning of the third round or middle of the third and just go, I want Sam LaPorta, I'm slapping his name on the board. I don't like that. It would really be hard for anyone to top the season that he had last year in terms of receiving touchdowns and how much volume he was given. But to ask somebody after their rookie season to do that again, that's a little crazy. So I'm off that value. If I was the guy setting the price or setting the market on a Sam LaPorta, for me, he would go after Trey McBride and Travis Kelce, or maybe even after Mark Andrews. But that's a tough one because of his injury history. Yeah, I would have to see like a change of like 10 in ADP. He's at 6.8. I would have to see like a change of 10 to be like, listen, this could be a value. But until then, still a little overpriced in my opinion. When I could get the Evan Ingrams, the David Njokus, and the Jake Fergusons of the world after and get a better, much better wide receiver, why do I feel the need to take Sam LaPorta in the first place? So anyways, just to recap, the 5 biggest drops in ADP, preying on the downfall of some of these guys. If we could get him even lower, we'll take him. But that would be Kyren Williams, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, Josh Jacobs, and Sam LaPorta. Those are the top 5 so far. If you liked this video or you thought it was helpful to your fantasy football research in any way or helping you get ready for your draft this offseason, feel free to hit the like button. It goes a long way in getting my videos out there to other viewers who have not seen my channel before. So I'd really appreciate it if you guys would take the time to just hit the like. And if you're new here and you like fantasy football content, guess what? I'm not going to stop making videos. So subscribe while you can. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.